Riverfire as a young kid watching the F-111, seeing the dump and burn, seeing the fact that it actually lit up the entire city and basically went from night to day.
Seeing a few river fires and just be going, that is something that I can only really dream of.
In particular, I remember the last dump and burn, seeing the interview, seeing the pilots and realising that they're people just like me as well, and that, you know, maybe one day that could be me, and then transitioning that later on to watching the Super Hornet display. And so I was down on the river and I was like, man, that's so cool. I'd really love to go and do that one day, and then to be selected to fly this year is incredibly special, and I'm really, really looking forward to doing the display tomorrow night.
I came back from a mission and I walk in, and the person who actually told me that I was going to be on Riverfire, spilled the surprise, was actually Clutch himself. I couldn't believe it. It was something that I'd obviously dreamed of for a long time, and just to get the privilege to be chosen by the squadron felt really good as well. And to also do it with Clutch, who I went through OpCon with, I've flown with him probably more than any other pilot around as well. It was also super special to me.
Honestly, still have to pinch myself, and it doesn't feel real is the best way I can describe it. To go through the application process for DFR, and then to go through all of the officer training and pilots course and work my way all the way up to the squadron, and then at the squadron to then get selected to fly Riverfire was essentially all of the childhood dreams that I could have ever imagined. I definitely have those moments where I feel like a young kid again, just looking at the jet, even as simple as walking on base and looking up and hearing the jets take off, like, oh, that's so cool. And then you actually pinch yourself and remember that, you know, that's what you do for a job, and it's unbelievable.
I think the whole thing is just like, we're not that special, we're not that different from most people that you would find around Brisbane or around the Gold Coast. Like, I wasn't exceptional at school, but I was determined to do this job and get to a position where I could fly the Super Hornet. And I think as long as you're willing to take setbacks and keep going forward and have that perseverance to keep going, I think you can make it in this job, and it's definitely something for you. But like I said, yeah, just keep the determination to get to where you want to be, because you will get there as long as you keep driving for it.
The 2015 one was really, really special because I just applied to DFR at the time, and yeah, watching Muzz go through and then to use that as motivation every single year, going down and watching the jet fly through the CBD of like, yeah, if I just keep putting my head down, bum up, and keep going through the process, trusting the process, and just week by week through all the different courses, that you actually can make it through and make it to the frontline squadron. But then for me in particular, coming to the Super Hornet and having Muzz, who for me was that big motivation factor to join, and, you know, was that extra motivation going through all the courses, to then have him instruct me on my first ever flight in the Super Hornet was absolutely insane. I still remember it exactly, you know, looking at the program and seeing that I was flying with Muzz, and I was like, man, this is really, really cool. And then a couple of years later, here we are, and Muzz has played a massive part in actually developing the profile for this year, and I did a few hours in the sim with him and got him to jump in, got him to fly it, and then he watched me fly it, and then to have that back and forth, and then essentially to complete the loop between him flying it, me being a kid on the river, to then me flying it, and then potentially there's a couple of kids on the river this year that look up and go, I want to be that guy. And then, you know, to go 9-10 years down the track, and then to have that kid come to the squadron and come to me and go, hey, I watched you in 2024, that would just mean the world to me. So complete that life loop, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of planning and preparation that went into it. As everyone knows, the Brisbane CBD is constantly developing. There's new bridges, new casinos, all of that stuff that you have to cater for each year, so you can't simply copy and paste last year's profile and put it into this year. You've got to get all that detail and then plan what your minimum safe flights are to all of that. So that took a fair amount of time to actually do that. But then from there, this week, we did a big shoot on Monday, just going through the entire profile, going through all the hazards, all the obstacles, all the background information. And then we actually jumped in the simulator with a lot of people around the console that had previous experience in display flying and display supervision, as well as actually crews that had flown Riverfire before, and they gave us a lot of free advice and a lot of tips for make us even sharper on the day. And then we did a second sim where we actually experienced a lot of emergency procedures along the way. So at the most inconvenient times, you'd have flight controls fails, you'd have engine fires, you'd have all of that stuff, just to make sure that we're comfortable to deal with that on the day should it happen.
There was a lot of human factors stuff that Clutch talked about as well. It was just like the kind of excitement and nerves that you had to manage as well. And I think that week leading up to preparing with the sims, having the emergencies, that kind of ease those nerves. It also kind of tempered your excitement as well. So if you we went in there knowing what we were going to see. We knew that we could manage any emergency from low level in the most inconvenient positions. It kind of made us a little bit more comfortable today, and it definitely helped when we got in the jet and when we realised that today is the day, that we were able to go out there clear-headed and actually give you guys a good show, but also be safe and not too twitchy on the controls or for clutch, or just be me just being too forward leaning. Like the two-seat crew, a lot of people, as you said, look at us and go, hey, like what's the person doing in the back seat, etc. But the best way I can describe that is like a rally car driver. So Gassr in the back seat is essentially briefing me on the next pass while I'm in the middle of the reposition turn, looking out and looking ahead, trying to identify all the obstacles, and then also my ground track. At the same time, he's giving me a pass review like, hey mate, this is going to be South Bank, this is not below altitude, this is our planned speed, and this is our next manoeuvre following that. So it's super critical for that, because it all happens very, very quickly, and with the adrenaline and emotion that you can have in the moment, just hearing that cool, calm, collected voice in the back just really settles you, and you're like, all right, this is exactly what we've practiced. And it just means that you're in a familiar environment when you're actually going down the river, which for us is an unfamiliar environment enough already. But it just makes it more comfortable and more repeatable. Trust as a crew model is the whole crux of the thing. It's definitely something that's like strengthened over time, and the more I fly with Clutch, the more I get to know his mannerisms, and we can kind of work together a little bit better, and then I can provide him what he needs in that critical 6 to 9 seconds before we actually dip into the river with everything he needs to know, speeds, altitudes, and what's the next event. The trust goes both ways in the cockpit. You don't build that overnight. It's something that we've developed since 2021 was the first time we flew together in the Super Hornet, and then we've flown multiple hours, multiple missions across, the most basic of transiting the jet from A to B, or transiting the jet all the way to Alaska, all the way through to some of the most complex missions that we've done in training together. To have that trust built over all of that time, it just means when we get in a more stressful situation, i.e. Riverfire, it's pretty hectic flying through the city with all of the obstacles around. You just have that inherent trust, and there's no doubt between each cockpit as to whether that person is actually backing you up or not. You just know that they are, and it's really, really comforting. One Squadron is definitely an awesome place to be, especially with the history, as you said, with not only operationally but then domestically with events and displays that it does all the time, and entertains the people of Brisbane and puts on shows at Aviation and the Pacific Air Show and things like that. Incredibly proud to wear the patches and fly the jet, but then also do that over the city of Brisbane, and have people and that next generation, as you say, look up, and then it's an incredible honour to wear the patches and fly the jet and represent the squadron. I couldn't be more proud to fly with One Squadron for everything they do, for all the people I work with, and hopefully that people see the display tomorrow and want to come and join, because I can't recommend it enough.